today's episode of the Exodus podcast, where you will learn about how to invest smartly, create a safety net for yourself and your family, and also learn how to make more money. I'm your host Maha Shafkat, and I'm here today with investment migration connoisseur and managing director of Smart Citizenship, Ahmed Shaner. In today's episode, we will be discussing the practical reasons for investing in a second citizenship. Did you know that having a second residency and citizenship can provide better business opportunities, security, and freedom of movement? Today we're joined by Ahmed to explore why this is important. Hi Ahmed, thanks for joining us. How are you doing today?
Hi, Maha. Always a great thing to be on the Exodus podcast, of course. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great, thank you. So Ahmed, let's start from the basics. Why is having a second residency and citizenship important?
Well, the list is quite long, honestly. But the decade of turbulence that started with COVID-19, it is going well beyond COVID-19, of course. Economic turmoil, war, sanctions, everything. So it might have been something optional in the past, but that's no longer the case. It became something that if you have the means for it, it's a must have. You can get stuck at your home because your country is going through a visa problem period. You can get stuck on your business if your country or the banking system in your country is going through a rough patch. And I mean, I hope we won't see that decade soon, but at some point there will be a shortage of natural resources, water, drought. In this case, I think it's beyond must have. It has the potential to save your life and the lives of your loved ones. So if you asked me this question 5 years ago, I would just talk about mobility, honestly. And as you realized, just visa-free access, it doesn't mean much to me. It's just a convenience. But the rest of the list is life and death situations.
I agree. Especially after the pandemic, we've seen the importance of having a second residency or citizenship. Ahmed, I'm sure you've helped many clients obtain a second residency and citizenship. Can you tell us about an interesting experience where someone benefited from a favorable tax regime or investment opportunity?
Of course. And you'd be very surprised. My example is a German gentleman
Okay.
who got the Turkish passport, established in Turkey. He could as well do it by being a German and do it.
Very interesting.
No, he went the full way because here's the situation. The European taxation system is quite draconian. Like with the exception of a few countries like Latvia, Hungary, those sorts of countries, Malta. My friends from Malta would kill me if I don't mention Malta when it's about taxes. So, but there's one country I'm leaving out, and I will keep leaving them out. I'm not going to say who, but there's another country with a very favorable taxation regime. So, but Turkey is not like that. I would never call Turkey a tax haven, but the system is flexible enough, and the system wants you to pay less taxes. Of course, if you just check the numbers, corporate income tax, like the numbers are there. But the system wants you to take advantage of certain exemptions. So that's why this German gentleman got established in Turkey, got the Turkish passport, and he wanted to do business with Asian countries, basically. And he successfully dropped his tax load by 50%.
Wow.
Exactly.
That's a huge amount.
It's huge, and I mean, honestly, he didn't try hard enough. If you really push it, there is still a margin. But this is one example of someone German who relocated to Turkey. Technically, you could have done it without being Turkish, but they chose this way. But most of it, taxation situations, it depends more on the residency than the citizenship, with the exception of the USA citizenship, where you are taxed wherever you are in the world. So Uncle Sam gets his money whether you like it or not. But rest of the taxation things it's based on residency, where you spend more than half the year is what counts. in determining your taxation status. But apart from this, gentleman, relocation, we had a number of clients who, by simply relocating to Portugal, they got taxed 0% on their international income. So, yeah, of course.
Wow.
But of course, like on the third countries, you need to pay your dues, whatever it is. But when you are bringing your wealth to Portugal, it's not taxed.
Okay, this is a very interesting example that you shared with us, because we usually hear about Turks going to Germany instead of Germans coming to Turkey. So thank you very much for sharing this.
You're welcome.
So Amit, I'm going to give you a hypothetical scenario. Imagine you're a business owner looking to expand your operations globally. How can having a second residency and citizenship help you achieve this goal?
Well, global. I would say it's much more dependent on your citizenship. Imagine, the example has been overused, so I will not use the Russian example, but I will create a hypothetical Chinese example this time, because I'm speculating that they might be the new outcasts within this decade, even. So imagine anything goes wrong in the Chinese Sea, in Taiwan. Now, Chinese citizens will be sanctioned out of their wealth and sanctioned out of their peace worldwide, just like our friends, the Russians. So, if they have multiple passports from this point on, their already global operations can stay global. But let me go back to your question: how to use it to become truly global? Let's go by a very specific example. Imagine a family, a business family from Pakistan. Let's say they relocated to Turkey, but they brought their business with them. They can, of course, by just the capital investment, they can still get the Turkish passport. But suppose they can do it with residency as well. But here is the magic part. If they bring their business over there, they have two huge advantages. The money they bring to Turkey, they can get out. There are thankfully still no capital controls in Turkey. Suppose the money you can bring into Turkey, you can get out. So they will no longer be subject to capital controls they have in their home countries. And apart from that, there are a number of very well developed economies that are like enforcing tariffs on their goods in Pakistan. But if they relocate their business and themselves to Turkey, they will no longer be subject to these tariffs. So their business has the potential to have better margins and more sales. So by using Turkey as a stepping stone, they can at least go into the European Union market more efficiently due to Turkey being a member of the customs union. This is just one example. There are countless opportunities to do. For people who want to legitimately internationalize their business, they need the mobility as well. Because imagine one of my friends, again, I'm sorry, but an example from Pakistan.
Okay.
So one of my friends had to be in an international conference,
Yes.
and his visa expired, and he assumed he would get it just like in 2 weeks. And he sort of postponed applying for it, his mistake. But usually visa applications are a minor inconvenience, but in his case, it took longer and longer. It took 4.5 weeks, and he couldn't make it to this global event where he was I would say, guest of honor. And if he had gotten his perhaps Saint Kitts passport before, when I pestered him, he would not be going through this process. So being global, you have to be global yourself.
I agree. In fact, I personally know many people who suffered from loss in business opportunities and even in career opportunities because they were unable to get the visa on time, or their visa was simply rejected for no valid reason. So I agree, especially for countries like Pakistan where the passport isn't as strong. I think it's definitely recommended to invest in a second citizenship. So generally speaking, like, how does a second residency and citizenship provide business opportunities, security, and freedom of movement?
Of course. So let's go over the basics as well. So let me start with security, my favorite. And let's again go by an example. South Africa. It's the go to example when you want to talk about the security benefits of having a new residency or a citizenship. So, for a while, the country has been going through a rough patch. I'm saying for a while because it's been forever and it doesn't look like it's ending soon. Even the government has even lost the capacity to fix a random pothole, let alone dealing with the energy crisis going on in this lovely country. So basically, if things were to take a turn for the worse, for your personal security, you have to have a second residency just to pack up your bags and leave. Some people, and by the way, South Africans have the highest percentage of relocating after getting their golden visas or second passports because it's already a headache to live there due to like extreme crime rate, extreme violent crime rate. So that's the security example. If it takes a turn for the worst, I think countries might put even harder visa regulations on South Africans because in turmoil, people get out of the country and they're not always nice people. So you want to keep them where they are if it takes a turn for the worse. So in terms of business, let's explore this angle. So I will just go over this briefly, but you can be a citizen of a low risk country, financially low risk country, if you plan ahead. So if you are in the financial industry and you're doing your business from Turkey, for example, you're in a high risk country. I don't make the list. I'm just putting the facts out there. But imagine if you planned ahead and you got the Portuguese golden visa 5 years ago and you got your passport right now, let's say, you're no longer a citizen of a high risk country. They're mid risk, by the way. It's not perfect, Portugal, but still it was something achievable. And business wise, people in the financial industry, they can become residents and they can execute their work. They can carry their business over there and they can become citizens of low risk countries. This is, by the way, priceless for them. Moreover, as I just mentioned in the previous question, just hopping on a plane and going to a meeting, just giving the FaceTime and that handshake to your clients, your buyers, it's all the things you need from a Plan B investment. Even this can turn your life around. Imagine you're a business person in a country where the country is entering a rough patch and your domestic market, it might die, honestly speaking, in the coming years, and you need international clients or buyers. If you do business with people who come to you, the chances are you're going to make less money as opposed to the situation where you will go and meet the clients because then you would be seeking more lucrative opportunities. So basically, even by this very short list, I would, if I have the means to do so, I would start planning it right now.
I think with regards to the security aspect, I would also like to add on to this. As a resident of Turkey, I feel much safer as a single woman and going outside of the house at any time during the day or night. I don't really get scared or I'm not really bothered by someone potentially, I don't know, like kidnapping me or assaulting me or anything of that sort. But when I am in Pakistan, I do have genuine concerns, whether it's noon or whether it's midnight. And I think this second residency really helped me as well feel much safer. So for all our listeners, especially the female investors and single mothers, I would definitely recommend them that if you have the means and the financial resources, I think you should make this your priority, because living in a country where you feel safe as a woman to travel alone, to work, to travel in public transport and not be bothered by anyone, I think that would be really helpful, not just for you, but for your children as well. So that is definitely something that our female listeners should especially keep in mind.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So, Ahmed, what advice would you give to someone who's struggling to obtain a second residency or citizenship due to a lack of awareness or language barriers or even confusing administrative costs?
Of course, this is one of the main reasons people are refraining from jumping
Yeah,
into
I
this.
agree.
I don't want to say the process is simple. It's not. For us, we might get acquainted too much with the work we do and we might assume it's simple and we might not be addressing all the issues of investors. So basically, nobody will force you, the investor, to do something you don't want to do in this process. What do I mean by this? So, if you don't want to buy a specific investment, if you don't want to use a specific bank, and if someone is pressuring you to do either of these, just walk away.
Yeah, I agree.
There are countless people who are in this business, but some people I see that they feel like hostages. They meet someone, a consultant, a company. They can have a very good media like brand value, let's say. They can look professional, but if they are cornering this investor to a specific type of investment, people get cold feet, I understand, and they walk away. But here's what I would recommend: talk to a lot of people, like get ideas, do your own research, and failing that, you can just pack your bag and go to that country, and you can meet actual investment advisors who are based there, who are consultants who are there. So they have like liabilities to the government if you are paranoid about that sort of thing, and just take things into your hand. But and I guarantee everyone who is listening to this, there is a solution for everyone in the business. In case you want to relocate, you don't want to relocate, you want a residency permit, but you want fast naturalization, there is a solution for everyone. And people don't look into this. And if somebody is presenting you three options and you don't like those options, the chances are they're just selling their product. They're just pushing their product. So check country by country. Do different and interesting Google searches. So, fastest country to naturalize in. I bet not many people Google this. I'm not going to give the answer, by the way, but there's a very surprising answer, which you can, of course, learn by contacting us.
Okay. Are there any countries or programs that you would caution against due to political instability or economic volatility?
Very loaded question.
Yes.
Extremely loaded question. But let's tell it as it is. The European Union is not happy with the golden visas, second residencies. They have been able to cull some of them due to pressure to smaller countries within the union, which I find very dishonest, by the way, that a country with 45, 60,000 euros per capita income oppressing countries with substantially less per capita income. But it is what it is. So European Union is getting what they want. In terms of inbound markets where people go to get their second residencies or passports, I would say Europe will stay volatile. And with all things considered, most volatility will end in the current programs being dismantled completely. There will be some countries who will want to take advantage of this vacuum within the European Union or neighboring countries. So volatility will exist there. But we're not in an age where we can be overcautious about proceeding some. If the door is open, just run through it. Just get it while you can. There is no guarantees for anything in the next 10 years. I see people saying, oh, the rule of law dictates this and that. But we clearly see that there is pressure against even the rule of law in even European countries. So that's one thing. The second part, in terms of economic issues, as you know, I'm usually a glass half empty kind of guy. So the damage that has been done with COVID-19 it's not improving. And with the current economic climate in the USA, where most of our economic future is decided, it's not looking promising, is it? So, because of this, I keep telling people next decade, everyone will lose money. Try to be on the side that loses less money. Because I'm not losing money. People think losing money is just making a bad investment and it depreciating in value. That's not it. Through inflation, you lose money. Through taxation, you lose money. And these are like both of these issues, increasing of taxes and inflation, probably they won't slow down in the next decade. So I will not go and defend, investing in X golden visa country, you will make a lot of money, or get the citizenship from this country through investment and it will increase in value. Well, I think still in hard assets, especially real estate, I think still we can make money through unorthodox purchases. So, and by definition, they're risky. So you need to take a bit more of a risk to get a bit more of a return. But capital protection, I think we can still pull it off if you deploy today, like this year. If you deploy this year, I think we can still have a window of opportunity where we will be able to pull asset protection at least. So that's basically how I see the next decade.
Okay. So you're not going to identify any specific countries, are you?
I'm not going to do that.
Okay, that's fine. So how do you see the demand for second residency and citizenship changing in, let's say, the next 5 to 10 years? And are you keeping an eye on any emerging markets?
So, amazing question. This demand will increase unreasonably in the coming years. It has been increasing, but people assume when a door is closed, this demand will disappear. With the Portugal example, Portugal golden visa is no longer there, and there won't be that much of a demand for golden visas. Yes, there will be. People will go to the next best thing, even if it leads to a citizenship or not. There will still be interest in this. There will still be a need for this. And I'm saying it will unreasonably increase because the world is not going to become more peaceful, less volatile, economies are not going to improve in the developing countries, so it will increase, and by a large percentage. In terms of which countries might be like emerging for companies like us to get deployed there, to create more investors, like originating countries, I'm talking about outbound countries. So most likely China will come back with a vengeance if volatility there increases even more. Well, I'm not questioning the strength of the Chinese government. They're not volatile at all. They're not going anywhere. They will remain strong, but doesn't change the fact that it's a monolithic authoritarian state. So it will work both ways. Due to pressure from outside, people will want to relocate, exit China, which will not be so easy. And secondly, the government will get more authoritarian. So as an emerging market, I know it looks a bit ignorant to consider China an emerging market. I know, of course I know, they make up still about 50% of investment immigrant, let's say. I'm just telling they will increase and they will most likely go back to pre-COVID levels due to a number of things. And the second market, I'm just looking at a zone, but Southern Asia, it looks like it's going to be complicated. I hate to say this, but I'm not just talking about Pakistan, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh. This zone, because of resource shortages, because of increasing conflict levels, within countries and between countries. People always assume, oh, the risk of Pakistan and India confrontation. That risk has been there for as long as we've known ourselves, perhaps. It has always been there. But what's going to change is that the internal situations in these countries will deteriorate. You know, Pakistan economy, it was never doing so hot, but it's going through a dead end quite fast. And we don't know what's going to come out of it. Everyone is doing their best. They're managing the situation admirably in Pakistan, but the global economic climate is not in a position to support them. Even with the hot Chinese money, I don't think it's going to happen soon. India, look at internal conflict over there. We're talking about, because they are the largest democracy, in quotation marks, in the world.
Yeah.
I know in the West people don't talk ill about India, but they are an authoritarian ethnic state, extremely religious government, and they tick all the boxes. I mean, I hate to say it, but like, substitute the religion with Islam, and people would lose their minds, honestly, if any country with that large of an army and that large of a population and economy would be run by a ethnic and religious government. People would lose their minds, but this will turn into some internal issues, and I hate to say it, very soon. So they are, if I'm not mistaken, Indians are by far the largest immigrant population in the world, but there will be more. There will be a larger of an exit of capital and individuals from India. Sadly, by the way. Bangladesh, they are reaching their carrying capacity in terms of population. This, if climate change hits any harder the location, they will have a lot of problems. So these markets, I hate to admit and talk about these, but it is what it is. I don't want to sound like an oracle. I'm not speculating. I'm just going by mere facts. But this is, I think, most of the exit of capital and individuals will be in Asia, I think.
Okay, very interesting. Amit, we've talked a lot about Plan B in these past few months. For those who can afford it, would you recommend having a Plan C as well?
Really good question, and I have just the joke for it.
Okay.
Plan C is now the Plan B.
Oh, okay.
Exactly, because imagine, if we had reasons to invest 10 years ago, we have tenfold reasons to invest now, and your Plan B may no longer function for you. Imagine your golden visa. Look at all this charade going on in Portugal.
Of course.
All of a sudden, you might find out that it no longer works in the way you intended it. It will not disappear. Nobody's golden visa, most likely. God forbid. Hopefully. I'm running out of hopeful words, but let's not jinx it. But
Yeah.
it's not going to disappear. But it looks like it's not going to work as intended. So if you had a Plan C, then it would further give you more peace of mind. And, imagine this. You said for those who can afford it.
Yeah.
The number of people who can afford a Plan B and they don't have it, you would be very surprised. Because my friends who are out of the industry, my high school friends, college friends, they keep saying, oh, don't everybody who needs it, who can get it, haven't they already gotten their golden visas and second passports? And the answer is no, and by a large margin. You would never believe a family worth north of 100 million USD. They still don't have it, and they are just taking their sweet time doing it. So, but I've also met people with Plan C and their Plan D.
Oh,
So, if it was me telling you what to do,
yeah.
because this money doesn't disappear. The money you invest into countries, well, if you donate, it disappears, but the money you invest doesn't go anywhere. So if there is anything that you can get by investment, by a real investment, you should get it. This is out of the question. I'm not discussing it with anyone. If you have a 10 million plus net worth and you don't have multiple migration. If you haven't done multiple investment migration programs, then like I would be very surprised if you would be able to hold on to your wealth in the next 10 years. Because A, you might get taxed out of it. Believe it or not, happens. Large fortunes have been lost. The British have an expression for this. Shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations.
Okay.
So it happens within 3 generations as well. And I would say if you don't have multiple options available for you and you are worth 10 million plus, most likely it will happen to you too. So perhaps my joke took a darker turn, but yes, I'd recommend a plan C and a plan D if you have the time and resources to do it, of course.
I think given the current global situation, people need to take this more seriously than they are right now. I personally know a lot of people from back home who can definitely afford it, but either they're not looking into it because they're really deep into their comfort zone or because they're unaware of what's to come. So, for all our listeners, I would definitely recommend them to take this more seriously and consider, you know, creating a safety net not just for themselves but also for their upcoming generations, I would say. So, as you know, many countries were locked down for quite some time during the pandemic, and many people were actually able to escape high risk areas with poor medical facilities and were able to spend time in more flexible, safe, and relaxed environments due to, their residency or citizenship. Can you shed some light on how does having a second residency and citizenship impact your travel options and visa requirements, especially in case of a global catastrophe or emergency?
The next global catastrophe of emergency, I hope it doesn't come within this decade, because globally, we don't have the resilience and tenacity left after COVID and the ongoing war and economic crisis. I don't think we can like weather the storm this time. But let's not talk about the extreme bad case, because
Okay.
my extreme bad case, because I'm a very cautious individual, is the end of civilization. But let's not go there.
Okay.
So, travel options during COVID, how were people able to get out? A, they had their golden visa in their back pocket and they just packed up and left,
Yes.
while their neighbor who had 100 million USD in the bank couldn't get a Schengen visa. So this is one way people can sidestep these issues, like assuming there are no straightforward travel bans. But even with a private plane, you couldn't get to the EU. They didn't let you in your, I don't know, how much does a private plane costs? I'm not there yet. But so basically, you were stuck. And number two, I have a very interesting example for this, actually. I'm not going to say which country, but I can confirm that somebody who got the Turkish passport through investment was extracted from a country. I'm not going to say who, of course.
Okay.
I would win very big President Erdogan points if I did. But they were extracted from a country during COVID because they couldn't access health facilities. And in Turkey, they were medevaced here on the government expense, by the way, paid for your good friends in the Turkish Republic. And they were able to get medevac from a very developed country. And they got their treatment here. And this was, again, I can confirm, somebody who got it through investment. Now, I'm not going to speculate if the Turkish government did it to just further promote their program. It is in the cards.
Okay.
We're into that sort of thing as a country and as individuals as well. But it doesn't change the fact that during emergencies, you will have the chance to be extracted if the passport you're getting, if the country is strong enough. Imagine like Turkish military is right now, this day, extracting people out of Sudan.
Yes.
I think before most of the Western countries got around to do it. So, but it can become a life or death situation. And if you played your cards right by designing a citizenship portfolio and a residency portfolio, the chances are, If we don't go to the extreme case, end of human civilization, you will be fine.
Okay, interesting. So, but before we conclude our podcast for today, could you please enlighten our listeners on how having a second residency and citizenship can affect your potential to leave a lasting legacy for your offspring?
The, again, this lasting legacy for offspring, I think it's what it's about. Of course, my perspective changed a lot since I had a daughter. Everything is for her, basically.
Yes.
I'm just a middleman between her future wealth and the money I have, right? I'm
Of
just a
course.
middleman. It's for her. So, a passport that your future generations can inherit, it's priceless. Because I cannot overstate the fact how much having options is important for the younger generation. The younger the younger parts of the population that are unhappy, they are unhappy because they don't have options. This goes to education. If you have the passport of a country with a robust education system, your grandsons and granddaughters will have the chance to go through the education system of that country. And in terms of residencies, well, residencies don't exactly translate into value for future generations if there's a PR angle for this. So watch out really well. What you are doing right now has benefits for your legacy, like granddaughters, grandsons. So some residencies you can use it to naturalize and get very strong passports, and then it changes the game completely for the next generation. So I mainly talked about inheriting passports, but of course anything you do today by using your robust network of companies and residencies that you hopefully weaved around the world with the help of your consultants, it will make you richer. And money never hurts the next generation.
Of course. I agree, Ahmed. In fact, I'd like to share something personal that has always bothered me. And I think a lot of our listeners would also relate to this. Every time I've received a visa rejection or had to go through the trouble of collecting a billion documents for obtaining a visa from countries that are actually visa free for most, has always made me feel sad that my parents or grandparents never considered obtaining a second citizenship because they never really faced any problems obtaining visas due to the nature of their jobs, and also because our passport didn't rank as poorly then as it does now. If they would have gotten another citizenship back then, I would be able to have a lot more freedom to travel and have access to many more opportunities, and this will always remain a point of contention between us, unfortunately. So, I truly realize the importance of a second citizenship and would recommend everyone who's listening right now to make it their top priority if they want to secure the future of their children and grandchildren, even if you don't have any right now. Thank you very much, Ahmed, for the great insights. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
You're welcome. I loved being here as usual.
For all those who are listening, thank you for joining us this week on the Exodus podcast. If you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to drop a comment under our podcast or reach out to us via our website www.smartcitizenship.com. You can subscribe to this show on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or YouTube. Don't forget to like and share our podcast. Be sure to tune in next week for our next episode. Until next time, think smart, act smarter.